All right. Well, welcome everyone to our webinar. So what we're going to do today is just kind of talk about everything you need to know moving forward, and whatever that decision may be for you, how to make a good one for yourself, how to decide where to go from here. My name is Michaela. I'm the founder, co-owner of GC Prep. We have Janelle with us today too. She is my co-owner and until recently was like the assistant program director at Sarah Lawrence over admissions. So she knows what she's doing. And we also have one of our coaches here, Coach Jess, who runs a lot of our um, sessions, individual coaching sessions, and also some boot camps and other things throughout the year. Okay, so here we go. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what it means to not match, um, some reasons why some people wouldn't match, what you can do now, where to get help, um, if coaching is effective and how effective, if so, and then next steps for you at this point. Okay. So, first of all, let's talk about what it looks like big picture. So, we had 1,770 people apply in the match this year, and 1,073 people participated in the match, meaning that that number of people had interviews. So there's a good chunk, it's almost 700 people that did not get interviews or withdrew before the interviewing process for whatever reason. Okay. And with a total of 662 seats, that is an overall match rate of 37%. Okay. From the total. Now that's when the unfilled seats are filled. Okay, we had a very unusual situation this year where the match algorithm did not fill 100% of seats that it could. So there's still like 17 or 18 seats that are available, and we're going to talk about those in a couple of minutes. So you still have the option to go for those if you want to. But once those are filled, we're going to be at 37.4% overall national match rate. Okay. So what does it mean to not match? It means that you will probably not be starting a genetic counselor master's program in this fall year. Okay, this fall. It does not mean that you are a failure. It does not mean that you didn't try hard enough. It does not mean that they hated you in your interviews. It does not mean that you will never become a genetic counselor. And it does not mean that you don't have what it takes to be a genetic counselor. And it does not mean that you should give up. Okay. So when we are in times of distress, like not matching, can be extremely challenging. And it's very hard to get rejection, especially for something that you feel so passionate for and excited about and have put in so much effort. But we need to make sure that we're separating what it means versus what it doesn't mean. So the only thing it factually means is that unless you apply to these unfilled seats, that you're not going to start a program this fall. But it doesn't mean any of those other ones. But those like feelings of failure or other things are going to try to play mental games with you, and they can be a roadblock from keeping you moving forward. So we want to make sure that we separate those as opinions and mind games rather than facts. Okay. So how do we do this? How do we balance this like disappointment and anxiety and how to be resilient? And there's a couple of different ways to do it. The healthy way is that you do have this period of disappointment and uncertainty, and it's going to be really uncomfortable. And you guys are familiar with that at this point. But then what do you do after that? Okay. The healthy way to move forward is to have a reaffirmation of your goals and also of your self-worth. Okay. Your value as a person has nothing to do with whether you matched or not. Okay. Your trajectory as a human, your value here has nothing to do with whether you become a genetic counselor and start school this year or not. Okay. So we need to have a reaffirmation that this is where you want to go with your career. We need to have a reaffirmation of your self-worth. Okay. And then the important part is to learn from the things that went wrong and then make actionable steps to improve. We have to change something. We can't do the exact same thing a second time and expect it to go differently. So we need to change something between now and the next time you apply. Okay. So when we follow this like healthy pattern where we decide that we're going to move forward, we double down and we proceed having reaffirmed ourselves and are clear where we want to go, this very often leads to positive outcomes in the next cycle if someone chooses to apply. Um, and sometimes in this process of finding themselves and reaffirming your goals, some people find out, you know what, genetic counseling may not have been the right path for me, and I would prefer something else. And if you choose to change course like that, that is okay, right? If you're doing it in that positive way where there's self-acceptance and self-knowledge and like closure there, then it can still be a positive experience where you're not leaving this goal of becoming genetic counselor defeated. You're just choosing something that is better for you with your greater knowledge of yourself. Okay, so that's the path that we want you guys to explore, this healthy way of moving out of this period of disappointment. Okay. What we don't want is that this disappointment settles and it just lingers and it turns into wallowing and also into self-criticism and hopelessness. And that spirals into uncontrolled anxiety. And then that turns into self-doubt and fear of never achieving anything in your life. And we don't want that. Okay. We don't want to spiral like that. And it can be hard to get yourself out of that mindset on your own. Okay. And so if you're finding yourself on that downward spiral, get some help. Okay. From a application perspective, that's coaching, but from like a person perspective, that's therapy, right? We don't want you to be stuck in this pattern of I will never achieve anything, I'm not good enough because of a disappointment of not matching. Okay. Um, People who get stuck in this cycle are usually not successful their next application round either. And it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So we don't want to do that. And we don't want to like give up on genetic counseling from that point either, because then it feels like a defeat, right? It feels like it's something that you just had to abandon because you could never achieve it, rather than something that you chose to move a different way because that's what you wanted. Okay. So, however you decide to move forward from here, do some self-reflection and see, okay, where am I in these processes, right? Am I on kind of a healthy path? Can I see a future that's positive here? Or do I feel like I'm stuck in like a downward spiral? And if it feels like you're there, get some help. Okay. We don't want you to be stuck there. Okay, let's talk about those unfilled seats. Okay, because that is an option that is very unusual. Okay, last year there were 3 seats that didn't get filled by the match, but before that, the 3 years before that, there were no unfilled seats. And for the years before that, there was like 1 or 2. Okay, so the fact that we have so many this year is unprecedented, and it creates quite a significant opportunity for those who want to take it. Okay, and you may decide, I don't want to go to those schools, or I am tired, I do not want to apply again right now. I want to wait till the next cycle, or I'm not going to proceed with genetic counseling. And all of those things are totally fine. But if you do want to try again, and you want to go for one of these schools, Long Island University, Weill Cornell, University of Connecticut, and MUSC have seats open, and you can apply to start this fall. Okay. You do not have to have interviewed at other schools. Okay. So you could have submitted applications last fall and not gotten any interviews, and you still have the same opportunity to apply to these 4 schools to start in September. Okay. So these all here, the 5, the 2, and the 8, that's 17 positions. Um, the match data tells us that there's 18 positions and 5 schools, but we don't know what the last seat in school is. I think they probably just declined to be involved in this like post-match process. So that last seat is probably not an option, but there are 17 places that are available. And schools want to fill those because students equal money from a school's perspective, not necessarily the program, but from the whole like bigger university standpoint, they want to fill as many spots as they have because that's how they get their money. Okay. So they're motivated to fill these seats and they want to do it quick. So what you need to know about this process, if you go for it, is the match service is not involved. So you don't need to do anything else with the match service at this point. Okay. What you do need to do is contact these schools or the ones that you are interested out of these 4 and ask for their timeline and what the general procedures are for this post-match process. They're all going to have a little bit different, but in general, it's very similar to what you're used to. You're going to have to write a paper and submit your applications and your letters of recommendation. You're going to do interviews if you're invited, and then you will wait to hear back. It's just not a match process there. Okay. They will just call you and offer a seat after your interviews if that's what they want to do. Okay. If you get multiple offers, then you get to pick which one you want to go to. Okay. If you are interested in going for these unfilled seats, start immediately. Okay. You don't have to start writing your paper immediately, but reach out to them immediately because, again, they need to go through the review process, interview process, and decision process all by the end of the summer. Okay. So it's not very long. So you want to have as much time as possible to get all your ducks in a row and revise your papers and things like that before whatever that particular school's deadline is for this post-match process. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about some reasons why someone may not have matched. There are many. Um, some people have multiple of these things. Other people have just one. Other people, it's not clear. So again, this is some self-reflection, but we're just going to go through a couple of reasons why some people don't match here, okay? Oops, sorry, my bad. Okay, first one is some people need more competitive experiences, okay? Grades are a big thing. If we look at the match data from this year, people who matched had a higher GPA on average than people who did not match. Now, the GPA is not the end all be all. Okay, there are plenty of programs who will match people with less than a 3.4. Okay, it's not like you have to have that, but if there are critical classes where you have a lower grade, like if one of your genetics classes is less than a B, retake that sucker. Okay. If there's a grade that just has a lot of credits and it's really bringing you down because you didn't do well, consider retaking it, especially if it's one of the prerequisites. You have some time over the summer, you can do an online course and you can fix that. And schools like to see that progress. Okay. Some people just don't have a lot of genetic counseling exposure. Other people, their crisis or counseling experience is either minimal or not meaningful to them. Like they haven't been able to specify what it means to them and why it was relevant. Okay. Some people are weak on their advocacy or volunteer work. They might not have the required prerequisites or coursework. Um, some people might need a little bit more research. That kind of depends on the preferences of each school that you're applying to. Okay. And some people just haven't had the kind of unique experiences or perspective changes that they like to see in grad school. Okay, so what I mean by that is we want to know that you have seen enough of the world to have your opinions, views, values, understanding, perceptions of the world challenged. And some of those, when you get challenged, you'll, recommit yourself to them. And other times when we have our opinions challenged, we find we need to change them, right? So we want to see that kind of growth. We want to see that kind of interaction with your life experiences. Okay. Reason two, there could be just a communication issue, essentially, like your writing or interviewing skills need work. Okay. So for a lot of people, it can be hard to articulate either in your paper or an interview why genetic counseling is for you. And similarly, a lot of people are unable to articulate what a genetic counselor really is or what they actually do. Okay. And not being able to communicate that means any knowledge that you have there is just stuck in your head and they have no way of understanding if you really know what you're trying to get into. Okay. This is a big one. This superficial analysis of experience is probably one of the top problems that we see. And most people who come to us for coaching, the initial paper that they submit is quite surface level. Okay, it's rather superficial, and that's not anybody's fault. It's because the prompts are so vague that you can write to the prompt without actually saying much about yourself, okay? Or really getting down to the meat of your experiences, okay? So a lot of what we're doing as coaches is figuring out how to help you dive deeper into your understanding of these experiences and what they meant to you, because that is meaningful. That is showing a program that you have the insight and analytical skills needed to be a genetic counselor. So this bullet point, I would say a large percentage of people um, are going to be in that bullet point at any stage of the process, not just right now, but at any stage of the process, you're going to find a lot of people in that bucket. Fortunately, is it a skill that can be learned? Okay. And it can be learned in not much time. Usually after a session or two, people are significantly improved in their ability to dig down deeper into the meaning of their experiences. Okay. Some people just lack confidence. They are great, but they can't see it in themselves. And so it's hard for them to represent themselves well. And if they don't believe in themselves, then how can a program believe in them if, you know, they're not getting that across? And then in rare cases, sometimes we see people that are just like really arrogant, but that is not very common. Okay. Um, Other possible reasons, your letters of recommendations could have been lukewarm. So you always want to make sure you're checking with the people you're asking to write your letters to see if they can truly and enthusiastically recommend you. And if they can't do either one of those things, then you say, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it. And you go find someone else. Okay. A lukewarm letter of recommendation can be damaging, even if it's not like, I don't recommend them, if it's just not specific enough, or if it's just kind of ho hum, then that can be a red flag for a program. Okay. Um, there are some people who apply to genetic counseling programs as a stepping stone to their eventual career. Like eventually they want to be a doctor, so they're going to make a stop at genetic counseling first before going on to get their um, MD. Schools are not looking for that. They actively are trying to avoid that because seats in a genetic counseling program are a very precious resource to the field of genetic counseling. And so we want to give those seats to people who are going to stay in the field as genetic counselors. Okay. So if there was some concern in an interview that genetic counseling is not like your final stop, essentially, then that could have been a red flag. Okay. Um, and in some cases, a person's personality is just not a great fit for genetic counseling. Doesn't mean they're not a cool person. You can be super cool and not be a good fit to be a genetic counselor. And that one is harder to figure out sometimes. Um, and it can be harder to realize that in yourself. But that's why it's very important to do a lot of research into the field, and talk to a lot of genetic counselors to understand, like, does this sound like something that feels right for me? Okay. Um, so if you know that all of these ones are good and you are passionate and you are a good fit personally and all your letters of recommendation were awesome, then I would look at some of the other reasons we talked about just to figure out what's going on. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about what we do now. First of all, self-care. Okay. This is a hard place to be, and it's really important that you're gentle with yourself at this time. We're not going to be um, criticizing ourselves. We're not going to be putting ourselves down. We need to give yourself grace and then re-find you. Because I know when I'm in a place of like disappointment or discouragement or facing rejection, it's hard for me to feel like myself and to feel happy and to remember what I like to do. And so spending time figuring out, all right, who am I? What do I value? What do I enjoy doing? Find all those things again. Okay? Do that self-care. At some point, you'll also need to decide if you're reapplying, and that could be to the unfilled seats or it could be next cycle. If you decide not to reapply, again, that is okay. Okay, that's totally fine. And do what is best for you. And if it's not genetic counseling, then it's great that you figured that out before you spent like $80,000 on a program. Okay, like truly. So it's okay if you move on if that is what you want. Okay. Um, That for a lot of people that can take time to process and just reflect on that. So give yourself time there. Um, you can ask for feedback from programs where you applied. Um, I recommend sending those emails at the end of May or early June, not right now. If you've already sent them now, it's okay. It's not like the end of the world. You just probably won't hear back right now. And the reason for that is programs just are trying to send out emails and they have students that are graduating and they've got theses to grade and they've got all sorts of stuff that they're doing like right now. It's a busy time for program directors. So your email will get lost. So at the end of May, early June, go ahead and reach out um, and express your continued interest in the program, really whether or not you plan to reapply to that particular place, but just express why you're interested in the first place, ask for any feedback on your application because you want to improve yourself, things like that. Thank them for their time and their efforts. Okay. Not all programs will respond, unfortunately. And that's not a you thing. That is, some programs just don't respond. Other programs do. Okay. So it kind of depends on the program, but take whatever feedback that you get and try to see what you can incorporate in the time that you have before you reapply. We do need to beef up CV experiences. If you're applying to the same program again next year, if your CV looks exactly the same as it did from the year before, major red flag. Okay. They need to see growth and improvement and continued dedication towards the field of genetic counseling. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can explore different opportunities, volunteering or advocacy or research or wherever you want to go with that. Um, Dive into your network if you have people who are genetic counselors or in the genetic field, or if you know anyone like that, expand your network. And you just want to immerse yourself in GC culture. Okay. NSGC is coming up in the fall. You could check that out. We have other conferences that are coming up. There's a ton of just even state-specific little genetic counseling conferences that are around. So do your best to expand your CV in the meantime, because if they don't see any growth on your CV, that's not going to hit right. Okay. And ideally, sorry, before we move on to the next one, ideally, the things that you get involved with or work on to expand your CV are ones that are like meaningful to you. Okay. Like, let's say you did the crisis text line as your crisis work, which is totally fine. Like, lots of people do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But let's just say you're just like not really connecting with that experience. And it's something that you actually don't like doing because of the format, like the texting method rather than an in-person situation. Go find an experience that is meaningful to you, that is hitting on your values, that is something that you relate with, something that you feel passionate about. Okay. There are plenty of opportunities about that. But even if they see that you like changed what your experience was, or you found a new thing, but you haven't been doing it very long by the next time you apply, it's okay because you can talk about it as I switched to this for my growth, for my self-dedication to this goal of becoming a genetic counselor, for something that is meaningful to me. And that shows a program that you are reflecting on the things that you care about, and you're trying to interact with these experiences not just to get into grad school, but for something that you actually believe in too. Okay, so that is valuable. Okay. Next, we need to connect the dots. Okay, so that is evaluate and reflect on your past experiences, like on your CV and the things that you've done, also the things that you're currently doing right now, and how they relate to genetic counseling. They do not have to be medical. Okay. So genetic counselors use many, many, many skills which have nothing to do with medicine, but they are just really excellent communication skills or leadership skills or organization skills or just interpersonal counseling skills. And you can have those interactions and develop those traits in a lot of different roles, business roles and leadership roles and all sorts of things. Okay. So don't think that the only things they want to hear about in your paper are ones that are specifically genetic counseling related. No, they're happy to hear about any experience if you can pull out how you developed a genetic counseling relevant or communication relevant skill from that experience. So we really want to reflect on that and dive deep into those experiences that you've had. And we actually have a whole video. It's called like understanding your crisis work or getting insight out of your crisis work that is like half an hour and really explains how to dive deep into those experiences you've had and really wring it of all the insight that you can because that is the meat of what they want to see in your application essays. Okay, we also need to build confidence, especially for people who are reapplicants and especially for people who this will be like their second or third time reapplying. There are plenty of excellent genetic counselors who were reapplicants or multiple time reapplicants. Okay, it doesn't say anything about your ability to be a great genetic counselor if you had to apply a couple times. Okay, we've had people match where it was their fifth time applying. Okay, so it is possible to be an excellent counselor and match, even if it's not your first time applying. But the way to build your confidence is to better understand your value as a person, your skills, your strengths, even your weaknesses, so you know where to work and where to focus. And some of our like mentorship and coaching can help aim that as well to help you like peel back the layers on yourself and really find what those things are to help build your confidence around. Okay. And then lastly, we need to set goals. Be proactive about this. Okay. Again, if you are planning to reapply either in the summer or in the fall, doing the exact same thing as you did before is probably not going to work, right? We need to improve something. So even if that's not getting help through GC Prep, that's cool. Get help from someone, right? Whether you know a genetic counselor or you have someone in your life that's really good at interview skills or other things, or if there's like a Toastmasters in your area that you can use, just get some help, okay? Because you have opportunities this summer and next cycle to apply, but we want to make sure that we've made measurable improvements to the methods that you're using to apply so that you get a different outcome, the one that you want, okay? Okay, so where do you get this help? This whole slide are resources that are not at all GC prep related. Okay. So Toastmasters is like a public speaking presentation, like business resource essentially, which can be really great for people who have a lot of interview anxiety and aren't sure how to conduct themselves when they're under pressure, like in an interview. Um, Also, most universities have career services that provide interview help or other um, kind of application skills. If you have a couple of low grades on critical courses, there are plenty of well-known online universities that are offering summer courses that are completely remote that you can do at your own pace. I would highly recommend doing them if you have a prerequisite. Again, that's less than a B. Okay. We want to replace those. Also, there's at Tulane, there is a 1 year master's in medical genetics and genomics. Okay. Stanford has a professional development certificate in genetics and genomics. So those two degrees are not sufficient to become a genetic counselor on their own. But if you've had poor grades and you've been out of college for a while, or let's say it took you a couple years of college to really figure out what your passion was, and so you didn't really start getting like great grades until the end, and so your overall GPA is kind of like lower. But once you found this like biology, psychology type stuff that's prepping you to be a genetic counselor, you made great grades in those, but overall your GPA is just low. It can be helpful to have more recent um, like after undergrad type grades that prove that you can be successful in programs as challenging as a grad degree. Okay, because grad school is very hard. Okay. Um, if you have significant confidence issues, I get it. I have been there, as have many of us. So therapy in general can be very helpful for that. Or if you feel like you're not at a place where you can access therapy, life coaching can be very helpful as well. And GC Prep does offer like long-term mentorship. That's with some of our coaches who are also life coaches. Okay. help with those activities to build confidence, find your skills, find your strengths, things like that. Okay. And then as far as genetic counseling exposure goes, there are genetic counseling career fairs. NSGC offers a special interest group for applicants. There are open houses, of course, lots of things that you know, just like get involved. And one of the best things that you can do is try to reach out in unusual ways. Okay. Cold calling genetic counselors to try to get shadowing opportunities often takes a lot of reaching out until you find someone that's available. Okay, a lot of reaching out. But if you reach out and ask for an informational interview, or if you reach out through LinkedIn, or if you go to some type of event on campus where there could be genetic counselors, or an event at your local hospital where there could be genetic counselors, that in-person networking and putting yourself out there can be like really helpful, okay, to gain that assistance. Okay? There's also a GC immersive at Colored Genetics. It's like shadowing and genetic counseling exposure, and it's all remote, but there's no coaching involved there. But it would get you something to put on your CV. So if you're looking for a more robust, um, immersive experience, then reaching out to them can be very helpful. Okay. Okay. We do have some free resources at GC Prep. We will have workshops. They are not on the calendar yet. We're still kind of sorting those out for the rest of the summer and next year. But they will be hosted by some of our GC coaches, some of whom have been program directors. And it's usually a group of 20 to 30 people. So it's not usually specific to every individual person, but we're going over select topics and providing a taste of what that coaching looks like to help you get an understanding of how do I start, right? How do I start exploring this? How do I improve what I'm doing? And so those are really great checkpoints that are free for people to join to just see how you're doing in the process. Okay. We also do webinars. They are, again, all free, and there's four. This one, there's one on selecting schools, or like orientation to application is what that one's called. There's one on writing your application essay, and then one on interviewing. Um, Again, the guidance in those webinars is broad. It can't be specific to any particular individual attending because there's just too many people, right? But it's going to get you some of the basic information you need to know to start so you know that you're on the right track. Okay? We also have support groups. We've got a reapplicant support group, which is great for people who don't want to feel alone in this process because it can feel very isolating to not match, or to feel like you're trying really hard but just don't have a community around you. So the reapplicant support group is once a month. We also have a first-time applicant support group, and then there's also a support group for current genetic counseling students if they need it. So those support groups are run by one of our genetic counselor coaches who can answer common questions, but you're also able to talk with other applicants and find your community there. So it's not something that you have to do by yourself. We also have the program map, which is on our website. It's an interactive map of all the North American schools. We are the only place that has such a map, and we are very proud of it. But use it to find places to apply that really fit you. Okay. We also have a video on like all the ways to evaluate a school for your different needs and what kind of person would vibe with different parameters of schools. So your first criteria does not have to be location. Okay. For some people, it is. For some people, they just want to stay in one spot. And if that's the case, cool, totally fine. But for other people, they're like, I don't really care where I go, but I need to have it be under this budget, or I need to have a large program, or I would prefer having rotations that are only on campus, right? So whatever you prefer, you can set filters and find schools that are really consistent with your needs. Even ones that you wouldn't necessarily have considered without the filters. Okay. And we have educational videos. There's 24 hours worth of videos. 11 of that is just interviews with counselors, people at the beginning of their career, the end, lots of different specialties, lots of different ways that their career has played out and their thoughts on being a genetic counselor, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We didn't want to pull any punches when we were interviewing these people because you guys need to know what it's really like to be a genetic counselor. If you watch those videos, you can add them to your CV as observed interviews. Okay. So that is an easy way to buff up your CV and have some exposure to genetic counselors. And it can also make um, asking relevant and insightful questions of counselors that you meet in real life or talk to over the phone. You can ask more significant questions that are going to get you deeper answers that are more helpful and more insightful. Okay. Those videos are free to all underrepresented applicants. So, racial minorities, LGBTQIA plus, or people in low socioeconomic demographics. There's a demographic survey to fill out on the website to apply to get those for free. And then that is like forever access to those videos. And for other people who do not meet one of those criteria, then it's either like a one-time um, fee or it can be a monthly. Okay. There is a discount with the DNA Today podcast. We have two podcasts with them. I think it's like 193 and 194. We're with GC Prep, and so there's a discount code in those episodes. Okay. All right. As far as coaching goes, there's application boot camp. It's like kind of 6 week intensive with 8 applicants. It's going to go through a lot of different like application help, but also kind of life coaching items like finding strengths and finding your values and things like that. Starts in June, but we have a couple sessions of that are still working on being scheduled. In the spring, there will be kind of a weekend interview intensive, likely, um, which is like one weekend, 6 hours total, with a small group and a coach talking about interviewing things, practicing, and then everybody gets a one-on-one interview. More information on those is on the website as well. Um, and then for one-on-ones, the document reviews and the mock interviews are really where the rubber meets the road for a lot of people. And those can be booked as one-time sessions, but there are also packages of multiple sessions that are discounted. Okay. Those are by far the most utilized resources and are highly effective. And we're going to look at some data there in just a moment. We also have realistic interview simulations that are just kind of 30-minute interviews back to back, where you and two other applicants rotate between people like you would do on an interview day. And then long-term mentorship, which is with a coach that's a genetic counselor and a life coach to work on that more holistic improvement and growth of yourself as a person while you're applying and making your application better. Okay. Can be great for people who have a lot of anxiety around the process or just feel like they really want a cheerleader kind of on standby for when they're needing assistance. Okay. So, does this work? Yes, it does. It does. Okay. This is what we're looking at for this year with the match data. So overall, again, we talked about this, that the national match rate was 37.4% for people who had some type of coaching service, even if it was just one, through GC Prep. That average match rate was 76.4%. So people who use GC Prep double their chances of matching. Okay. Of everybody that was interviewed, so that was like a little over 60% of the total people who applied got interviews, but of people who had at least one document review, almost 85% matched. Okay. And then of everybody who interviewed, while almost 62% nationally of those matched, 86% of people who use GC Prep matched. Okay. So that this is significant and measurable improvement on someone's chance of matching using these services. And if we look at, well, what did the people who matched and interviewed, like what did they do? The data tells us that the people who interviewed, on average, they had 3 document reviews and matched had 4. And then on average, had 2 mock interviews when they matched. Okay. So that is kind of data-wise what was the amount of coaching that led to the most successful outcomes if we're only looking at document reviews and mock interviews. And for people who are going to go for one of those unfilled seats, that those services are available to you now. The other services like application bootcamp and some other things that we've discussed will not be available in time for applying to these unfilled seats. But these document reviews, mock interviews, super successful at helping people get to where they want to go. Okay. There are also a variety of intangibles, right? Things that you can't put a percentage on, like anxiety management and like improving your critical thinking skills and insight. And really, what we're trying to do is to teach you how to think like a genetic counselor. And the earlier you start doing that, the more likely you are to match, okay, and get interviews and get into a program. Okay. There's also significantly reduced confusion. There's realistic and specific encouragement. And it's like having an anchor instead of just being tossed about on every whim of like, I don't know what's going on and I'm not sure about this and I can't, not sure how to move forward effectively. Okay. So those are things that we can't represent in numbers, but have been very helpful to people. And here's what a couple of people have said about their experience with GC Prep. The first one's a little long, so I'm not going to read it, but the second one here is just thank you so much for everything. Your help was so important on this journey. Thank you for giving me so much confidence, and I can't believe I get to be a GC soon. And she was a reapplicant. She was a mature student changing careers, and she had had like a couple of document reviews and also had a mock interview. Okay. So lots and lots and lots of people are reapplicants. It's not going to hold you back at all being a reapplicant. It just depends on where you go from here. Okay. So for now, what are your next steps? What do you do at the moment? Okay. Um, I would recommend becoming a site member to receive our like notification of emails. Um, for events, for sales, for other things going on. I encourage you to join the free reapplicant support group. It's something you sign up for each month if you're going to attend that month, and it can be really great to get guidance along the way. And also, there usually aren't a ton of people in there. And so imagine if you had like a group of 3 applicants with a coach for an hour. Like that's a lot of time for you to talk with applicants and ask questions of your coach that all of you can grow together, right? All of you can get help together and it's free. Feel strongly about the support groups because they're like really underutilized and they're like could be just a great opportunity for people to get free help. So I highly recommend those. Um, Access the educational videos. Again, if you're in um, an underrepresented group, you can get those for free. There it is. And you can contact us if you need help making a plan. We have free coaching orientation sessions. They're like 15 minutes, or a long-term orientation is 30 minutes. And you meet with me, and we just kind of talk about who you are and what your journey's been and where the sticking points are, and kind of create a plan for how you could move forward. And it's completely no obligation. So if we meet and you never want to do any coaching with GC Prep again, cool. That's totally fine, right? But we can just talk about what you guys need individually to move forward. Okay? We also have a special opportunity here. And this is specific to this year and like the next 3 weeks. Okay. So you guys are hearing about it first. Okay. Here's the opportunity. Um, It is a raffle for a nonprofit immersion experience. Okay. And I want to be clear, this is not a GC Prep service. This is outside of GC Prep. Um, I am just communicating it to you. Okay. So it's offered by a group called GC Connections, and that is run by Coach Jess, who's here tonight, and also Coach Anna. So they both coach for GC Prep as far as application help, but outside of GC Prep, they work together on GC Connections. And they are working with the Rare Disease Network, and their goal is to match GC students and now applicants with rare disease nonprofit organizations for like a 6 week facilitated experience. Um, Jess, do you want to take over describing that? Like, it's here, but if you want to talk about it for a minute, you can go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. So, as Michaela had mentioned, she had kind of brought this up earlier, kind of thinking about outside of the box ways to get experience and exposure. And if something like crisis text line or being a GCA isn't maybe for you, or maybe you've just had difficulty getting into those types of positions, this experience is really meant to be able to plug you directly into a nonprofit organization that's something of interest to you. We have different experiences anywhere from people that might be interested in actually more like policy advocacy, maybe some sort of education, even kind of data literature review research stuff. So there's a bunch of nonprofit organizations that are excited to partner with us, and we plug you directly into it. Not only are you going to be plugged into this nonprofit, Coach Anna and myself will be guiding you through the process. So whatever project you'll be working on with that nonprofit, 2 hours is going to be spent with Anna and I actually doing some hands-on work for the project. And then we'll also have another day where you'll be interviewing individuals from that community of the nonprofit that you're serving for. So that could be patients, that could be caregivers, that could be people of the board. So we really want you to not only get some hands-on experience with creating something that's meaningful for the nonprofit, but also get an insight look at to their lives. With whatever community we you will be engaging with. So all of those things, of course, you can add onto your resume. You'll have some sort of project that you can contribute. You'll have experience with interviewing people and get some of the behind the scenes. You'll have the one-on-one work with myself and Anna, genetic counselors, and then you'll also be able to hopefully the hope is that you establish a relationship with this nonprofit, and after the 6 weeks of working with Anna and myself, you'll be able to, if they have the bandwidth, to kind of stay in contact with them and potentially stay on as a volunteer and help them with other things. In addition to that, we are offering a coaching, afterwards to see how you can also integrate this into your applications. One coaching session might not get you that far with the entirety of your application, but it's going to give you some insight into how to incorporate this particular experience into it. Outside of that, we have listed on here too that you can also potentially get letters of recommendations from these individuals that you're working with at the nonprofit. So that's a really nice way to, if you struggle with finding letters of recommendation, getting some new faces into your application. So the total price totals out to about $1,200. But as Michaela mentioned, this is a unique opportunity for you guys to potentially be one of our interns that is working in this. And Michaela, if you want to share how
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
win this
absolutely.
raffle.
So anyone who wants to do this can just do it, right? You apply, the websites are there. You can purchase the experience and apply through the GC Connections website there. However, um, for today, this special offer is anyone who books and attends a free coaching orientation with GC Prep before May 9th are going to be entered into a raffle to win this opportunity for free. So without the fee associated with it. So that's, I mean, it's 6 weeks. You get at least 3 hours of direct genetic counselor or like uh, interview with a a patient or a caregiver experience each week. So that's at least 18 hours of coaching or CV building, plus all the stuff that you're doing for the work on the project. So, um, again, that coaching orientation is 15 minutes. It's free. It's no obligation. You've really got nothing to lose, right? Come, we'll have a chat. If you're interested in doing some coaching for GC prep, super, we'll talk about it. But again, it's no obligation. So really nothing to lose here. Just that orientation needs to be before May 9th. Okay. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me through our website. You can also reach out to GC Connections with more questions on their website there. And I know they're very happy to answer any of those. Okay. Um, and then there's this last little video here that I want to share, which is helpful and when you pay attention to like what their job titles are. Okay. So there's a variety of people speaking here and their experiences with rejection and what it meant for them in their greater career trajectory. Can you guys hear that? Yeah.
No.
No.
Are you not hearing that? Okay.
No.
Uh, all right.
You might have to share sound from Zoom.
Yes. Sorry, one second. Is there an additional way to share sound?
Oh,
Yeah,
additionally, you could just go straight to YouTube and share the YouTube page
I could let.
instead of yeah, sharing it from the slide.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Let's see.
Is that better? Can you hear
Mm,
that?
no.
No? Okay. Well, that's a bummer, but here is the name, How to Deal with College Rejection from Road Trip Nation. I highly recommend watching it. It's 3.5 minutes, like a TikTok. Okay. But I find it really helpful to hear about how these people who have turned out to be highly successful all dealt with, at the time, very devastating rejection. And they turned it around into something that was really beneficial. And that rejection ended up being like a critical point in their career. It was a pivot point for them to make something greater. And so there is a way forward when you figure out how to get unstuck from this moment and these negative feelings that we have right now. There is a fantastic and unlimited number of wonderful futures that are available for you. And not matching in a single cycle does not have to be something that will change the trajectory that you want to be on or make your dreams impossible. Like you can do what you want to do after this. And these people are proof. So I highly recommend watching it. Apologize for it not working. Um, but that is what we have. So, do we have any questions? And I'm gonna stop sharing. We do this. Janelle, were there any questions in the chat? I can't see it.
No, no questions in the chat so far.
I had a question actually.
Hmm.
In terms of like online courses, like where would you go to like specifically go to like get like I've already graduated college in 2023
Yeah,
and like to retake like chemistry or something like that. Like where would
where
be
would you
good
go?
to go and redo that?
Yeah, so it depends on the program. I would just do essentially a Google search, okay? If you've never, ever, ever heard of the school, then like, okay, maybe not that one, but there are a lot of state universities that offer online classes in various things, but certain schools kind of have like little specialties or things that they're better at offering online. So just do a search, but it's not uncommon for like big universities that you've heard of before, um, or that have like good reputations to offer the classes that you need. And if you're doing something that has like a hands-on portion, like chemistry, for example, like if you need like a chemistry lab, for example, then you might have to see if you can do an online course that has the lab part in person close to you, or there are other things that they can do. People got creative over COVID with having to do stuff remotely, so some of them might even send out like a chemistry kit to your house to, do your stuff. I don't know, but you can find like plenty of schools online that will offer any of the classes that you need to take. Okay. If you are unsure if a class that you're looking at meets the criteria, okay, you can always email your highest priority school and ask, like, would this meet your criteria? Or you can email the school that's offering it online, and say, this is what I need it for. Does the content fill this requirement, or like does the content cover this, like if you need to repeat psychology or something like that. Not any psychology course would be good for like genetic counseling. Like you don't really need to know about abnormal psych, as interesting as it is, right? But you need like good counseling skills, or like how the mind generally works is very helpful, right? So calling the program that's offering the online class and asking, does it cover this topic? This is what I'm kind of looking for. They can help guide you as far as whether that one is a good fit. Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? Uh, Okay. All right. So we are then done for now. What we'll do is go ahead and post this on our website in the next couple of days. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email me. It's support@gcprepllc.com. That goes directly to me. And I hope to see you again wherever your path takes you, right? Whether that's soon because you're planning to go for one of those seats, or if we see you for the fall, where we'll do an orientation to application webinar, probably in mid-August, to kind of like set the roadmap for what should be done when. So hope to see you again. Take care, you guys.